President Rooney, Provost Callahan, Dean Barman, Dean Jones, officers of the university, guests of honor, members of the faculty and administration, candidates for graduation, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 152nd Annual Commencement of Loyola University Chicago for the Graduate School and the Institute of Pastoral Studies. As we begin, let us pause for a moment to draw our attention to the university's Land Acknowledgement Statement, both on the screen and on the inside front cover of your program, honoring the heritage of the grounds we walk. Now, will everyone who is able please stand as the Loyola Wind Ensemble plays the national anthem. We ask that you remain standing until the invocation has been given. It is now my privilege to present Dr. Timone Davis, Assistant Professor of Pastoral Theology, who will give the invocation.
God of creation, your infinite diversity is not limited to plants, birds, insects, trees, animals, and sea creatures, but extends to us, humanity. Created in your image, may this moment dispel the notions that anyone be excluded. You, who has brought us to this moment, bless us as we seek liberation for all of us living in systems of oppression. Bless us as we reconcile with one another, seeing your good in our diversity. Bless us as we celebrate this moment of accomplishment brought to fulfillment by promises made long ago for our well-being. Speak to us again, God, so that we may learn from you how to separate the light from the darkness. Speak to us again, God, as we seek to set ablaze the stony hearts of our neighbors, transforming them into hearts of flesh. Speak to us again, God, so that we walk boldly into spaces that call for a just voice and just action. Sweet Holy Spirit, as we journey, help us to move in you. Sweet Holy Spirit, as we journey, give us the strength of those who stand under oppression, the hope of those who live in poverty, and the faith of those who know joy comes in the morning. With grateful hearts, We ask this through Christ our Lord, who with the Holy Spirit is one God, forever and ever. Amen.
Everyone, please be seated. It is now my honor to present Dr. Joanne Rooney, President of Loyola University, Chicago.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a great afternoon, and on behalf of the students, faculty, staff, and trustees of Loyola University Chicago, and our worldwide network of alumni, family, and friends, welcome to the graduation ceremony for the Institute of Pastoral Studies and the Graduate School, and this, the 2022 annual commencement for Loyola University Chicago. This year, we celebrate more than 5,000 graduates in 11 ceremonies during this joy-filled week. Being able to celebrate together this year adds an extra level of excitement to an already momentous occasion. Following many months of constant adjustment, isolating solitude, remote learning, and virtual ceremonies, we have learned not to take some of the most basic things for granted, such as joining together as community, or exchanging face-to-face greetings, or sharing that special hug. I extend heartfelt congratulations to all of our graduates, and the warmest of wishes to all the families, friends, and loved ones here with us today. Despite the uncertainties and countless challenges you encountered during this global pandemic, you have adapted and you have persevered. With resolve and resilience, you continue to connect, to learn, and to care for each other. You navigated constant changes while supporting one another, and you worked hard as you completed your degrees. This is the real definition of being Jesuit educated. Of course, there were countless difficult moments and even some periods filled with doubt. But we have all been inspired by your resilience, creativity, and determination as you navigated so much change and uncertainty. Yet, through it all, we have a renewed appreciation that we are all in this together, and none of us can accomplish great things alone. Let us take this moment to appreciate each other, students, families, faculty, and staff, for the many ways you lifted one another up, persevered, and leaned into a greater goal and the greater good. Let's acknowledge that with a round of applause for everyone, please. At this Jesuit Catholic university, we understand that there is no learning without love, no success without kindness, no scholarship without accompaniment. There is no justice without mercy, no reason without faith, and no healing without hope. Our coming together today is a collective act of hope and of love. We come from many backgrounds and celebrate as one achievements across many fields. We connect not only to mark this milestone, but also to affirm as a community our commitment to the values of Jesuit education, civil discourse, deeper understanding, greater justice achieved through education, research, and service to others, and seeking and seeing God in all things. To this class of 2022, as you transition from student to graduate, it is important to recognize that it is your calling, your responsibility to apply these values across a world that is in need of hope, commitment to action, and leaders like you. But for right now, at this moment, let us focus on the present. It is time to celebrate and commence.
It is now my pleasure to present Dr. Emily Barman, Dean of the Graduate School and Vice Provost for Graduate Education.
President Rooney, Provost Callahan, Dean Jones, Dr. Love, Sister Pimentel, faculties of the Graduate School and the Institute of Pastoral Studies, it is with the greatest honored guests and graduates, it is with the greatest of pleasure that I welcome you to Loyola University's 152nd Annual Commencement Exercises for the Graduate School and the Institute of Pastoral Studies. This year is unique in that we welcome the doctoral graduates of the classes of 2020 and 2021 who were unable to attend their own commencements in those years to join our entire class of 2022 in celebrating their accomplishments. Today is a very special day, for it represents the culmination of several years of scholarly effort and dedication on the part of all of our graduates. Loyola University Chicago upholds the Jesuit ideal of using knowledge in the service of society. As a graduate student, you have engaged in reflective practice, drawing upon what you have learned here at Loyola through rigorous study and training, and applied your skills to an array of challenges in numerous classrooms, labs, and placement settings. Linking theory to practice, you have used your intellectual talents to improve the lives of others and to meet the societal, spiritual, and environmental needs of a global society. As graduate students, you have accomplished much in your time here, but you would be the first to acknowledge that you did not do so solely alone. I know you will join me in thanking Loyola's extraordinary faculty and staff, and please join me in thanking the folks who made all this possible, your parents, spouses and partners, family and friend. Let me join you in collectively applauding their efforts as well, and I also want to give a special thanks to the Loyola Wind Ensemble for performing for us today. With your graduate degree in hand, you are rightly poised to go forth and to use the knowledge, skills, and experience you gained here at Loyola to pursue your dreams, accomplish great things, and leave the world a better place than you found it. We are so proud that you are joining the ranks of our alumni, and we look forward to what you will accomplish next. Please know that as our alumni, you will always be welcomed on campus and have a home at Loyola. Now, let us get on with the happy business of the day, your graduation, and congratulations again.
It is now my pleasure to present Dr. Peter Jones, Interim Dean of the Institute of Pastoral Studies, who will now offer a greeting.
President Rooney, Provost Callahan, Dean Barman, officers of the university, distinguished guests, members of the faculty and staff and administration, and the extraordinary Loyola Wind Ensemble, family, friends of these graduates, and most importantly, members of the class of 2022. It is my honor and a true joy to welcome you here, to this place, to this room in person. Welcome to the 152nd Annual Commencement Exercises of Loyola University Chicago. As a faculty member for 9 years, I've come to know many of our students well. As the Associate Dean and now Interim Dean, I've come to know many, many more. It is my pleasure and my honor to welcome you and celebrate with all of you on this wonderful occasion. In the Catholic tradition, we find an exhortation to be attentive. We need to, quote, read the signs of the times, and then respond compassionately, passionately, and faithfully. Echoed in the Jesuit desire to recognize the presence of God in all things, in everyone, we read the signs of the times with an eye on accompanying others through these times. And in that work, we find ourselves walking with God. If you're not Catholic, if you practice another faith tradition, or none at all, perhaps we can call this walking with the grain of the universe. In the Jesuit mode, walking with the grain of the universe means walking the path in service of others. And as others have noted, this path cannot be taken alone. We must proceed together. So we have to learn to walk together. We must recognize the fact of our deep interconnections with each other, with the earth. We must meet and listen for understanding. We must discern our surroundings and the path ahead, and we have to help each other as we move forward. Your education challenges you to see and understand this, and to integrate this into your self-understanding. The Jesuits have another value that serves us well here, magis. This refers to our desire to excel, to seek evermore. Not content, you all have chosen more. You've even chosen graduate school as a part of that path. In reading the signs of the times, in seeking to respond compassionately, critically, constructively, in walking with the grain of the universe together, in striving for more, for excellence, you find yourself in this moment. You are about to commence. You are about to begin. You formed yourself in the pursuit of excellence as servants of one another. Thank God. Thank you. Thank you to your parents, your families, your friends, all those who've encouraged and supported you. Welcome to the great beginning, to commencement, and congratulations for this momentous achievement.
With pleasure, I invite Dr. Emily Barman back to the podium to present the Graduate School Awards.
It is now my pleasure to present the award for the Graduate Faculty Member of the Year, an award which recognizes outstanding contributions to the graduate school in the areas of research, teaching, and service. This year's award winner is Dr. Joy Gordon, professor in the Department of Sociology. The Council of Graduate School Programs selected Dr. Gordon for this award because of her outstanding record of distinction as a teacher, researcher, and mentor. She is an exceptional example of a scholar in service of others. Dr. Gordon came to Loyola in 2015 as the Ignacio Curia S.J. Chair in Social Ethics after a long tenure at Fairfield University. Her excellence in graduate mentoring has led to extraordinary student publications on topics including genocide, food security, taxation and economic justice, and the global arms trade in respected and influential academic journals, including the Columbia Human Rights Law Review, African Journal of International Economic Law, and International Journal of Human Rights. Her own scholarship and research are internationally renowned. Following the publication of her widely reviewed and highly praised book, Invisible War, the United States and the Iraq Sanctions, published by Harvard University Press in 2010, Dr. Gordon now has 2 books focusing on the impact of economic sanctions under contract with Cambridge University Press. Some of her projects support and showcase publications by Jesuit scholars in Africa, and she is leading an initiative for the journal Ethics in International Affairs to increase contributions by scholars from the Global South. Dr. Gordon notes that she designs her graduate courses to give students a great deal of support throughout the semester so that they may develop the skills that she believes will serve them well for the rest of their academic and professional lives. For example, one student wrote, "I did not imagine how much I would learn and grow in such a short amount of time." And another wrote in an evaluation, "It was quite a unique experience to witness the growth in myself and my classmates in confidence and competence." Dr. Gordon's colleagues also highlight that she has rendered stellar service as the chair of the Philosophy Department's Graduate Teaching Committee. She launched programs to teach students anti-racist pedagogy, online teaching, and community-based active learning. Additionally, she founded and organized several initiatives benefiting graduate students: the Social and Political Philosophy of Law workshop, a data gathering project on job opportunities for doctoral students, a 6-week seminar in preparing graduate students for placement in Catholic institutions, and a 1-day workshop for Jesuit scholastics who will be starting their regencies. Dr. Gordon, I should have told you to sit down because this was going to be extensive phrase. Finally, her teaching and research exemplify Loyola's commitment to cura personalis and social justice. Dr. Gordon's interactions with students model a caring relationship that embodies cura personalis. Her generosity in spending time helping others to become better scholars, publishers, and teachers is really, truly remarkable. Dr. Gordon herself notes, "Every time I walk into a classroom of graduate students, I am grateful for all that they bring to the table. For me, working with graduate students meshes seamlessly with all that I value about the life of the mind. It is a pleasure to engage with my graduate students in our shared commitment to social justice and to invite them into my own community of colleagues around the world." Clearly, Dr. Joy Gordon perfectly exemplifies the characteristics of Graduate Faculty Member of the Year. Please join me in congratulating her. I would now like to announce the Dissertation of the Year Award. This is an annual award established by the Council of Graduate School Programs, recognizing outstanding scholarship by graduate students in their academic division in the graduate school. As I say the names, if the students could please rise. The awardees for Dissertation of the Year and Thesis of the Year are Thomas Martin, Dissertation of the Year in Biomedical Sciences; Kelly Schmidt, Dissertation of the Year in Humanities; and Maya Hareli, Thesis of the Year in the Social Sciences. Congratulations. Thank you.
With pleasure, I present Mia Cirincioni, candidate for the degree of Master of Arts in Medical Sciences, who will offer some remarks on behalf of the students of the graduate school.
Good afternoon, President Rooney, Provost Callahan, Dean Barman and Jones, honored guests, faculty, family, friends, and the unprecedented class of 2022. Welcome. My name is Mia Cirincioni, and I am honored to speak with you all today to celebrate our collective journeys at Loyola University. Unprecedented. Many have heard this term in some context over the past year. Unprecedented times, growth, and demand. As a community, we have witnessed local and global tensions and conflicts, but relief and progress are also evident. Our experience has been entirely novel. I want to talk about our experience through the frame of music. Whether you listen to music on a streaming service, the radio, or even have a favorite commercial jingle, music is in the world around you. My father in the audience today loves Hotel California, and my mother, who walked this Loyola stage 25 years ago, will rock out to Dancing Queen. I know music has been around me for as long as I can remember. I started listening to the radio to decompress on a long commute home. I did what any of us would do as a student in 2 hours of traffic, and I started entering radio contests. It provided an adrenaline rush, a safe one, I may say, and I've won over 5 times. I've been told I'm lucky, but I say I'm just very persistent. So I'm not here today to convince you all to enter radio contests or that radio is the answer, but I want to talk about music because it is universal and global. People understand music across all geographic regions, cultures, and ethnicities. When we're feeling down, we may listen to Sam Smith or Adele. But then spending time with friends, we may opt for Flume or jam out to Queen. And some enjoy the relaxing feeling of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and feel fantastic walking out of a 3-hour Bach concert. And others enjoy the rush of heavy metal, and others enjoy the calming feeling of a psalm at Mass. Distinctive times, moods, and experiences connect us to music in various genres. Music varies in its frequency, tone, harmony, and the consequent feelings arise from a multitude of elements, intention coming together to evoke something new. Ronald Heifetz said, "Without this tension and conflict, music lacks movement and dynamism. Music teaches to distinguish varieties of silence, including restless, energized, bored, tranquil, and sublime." As a component of music, this silence allows these precious moments for new things to be heard. And developing music, like developing leaders, begins within structural limits, which serve as a basic scaffolding for creativity. Plato put it this way: if there is no contradictory impression, there is nothing to awaken reflection. Loyola University has provided a scaffold for us to flourish as genuine leaders. But raising leaders through unprecedented times is not a simple task. The opportunity arises to utilize tension and conflict, recognize it, reflect upon it, and transform tension into growth. I like to remember there is no growth in the comfort zone and no comfort in the growth zone. Our time as graduates has been a period of reflecting on and seeking to understand ourselves, our passions, and our futures. Unprecedented times call for adaptive leaders, leaders who have the capacity to create environments that embrace diversity, leaders that persist through pressure, and leaders that continuously learn and adjust their responses as necessary. I encourage all of you to rise to the occasion as adaptive leaders, carrying the Jesuit values and the self-reflection nurtured here at Loyola. We all have individualized experiences of graduate school at Loyola. The challenges have felt overbearing and even unfair at times, but we have triumphed together as the class of 2022, sharing the connection of Loyola's mission as value-based leaders. Moving forward in the world, I challenge us to utilize our experiences to develop as leaders and global citizens. Let us lead generously as we move in a multitude of ways. We have worked diligently, persisted through hardship, and deserve to be proud of this achievement. Congratulations, Loyola University, Chicago class of 2022. Thank you.
I would now like to introduce Kasia Elsinore, candidate for the degree of Master of Divinity and Master of Arts in Social Justice, who will offer some remarks on behalf of the graduates in the Institute of Pastoral Studies.
President Rooney, Provost Callahan, Deans Jones and Barman, hello to you all, and thank you. The past few years have been turbulent, to say the least. Many of us entered our programs pre-pandemic, pre-summer of 2022 racial justice uprisings, and pre-war in Ukraine. We could have never imagined what lay before us or what was about to be asked of us. but we committed to a field of study and to see the world through a particular lens. For me and my classmates, that lens is pastoral studies. Over the past few years, we have personally and professionally asked one another, what does it mean to know God? To be church? To be alive right now? In one of my more recent classes, Facing Apocalypse, we dared to ask, how will we face the end of the world as we know it? It's dramatic but relevant. The world we live in today is not the world that it was when we began this program. And the world that we live in today will not be the world of tomorrow or 4 years from now. For some of us, this is terrifying. For others, this is the reality of a dream come true. Endings are conflicting and difficult, and we will not minimize that. But change is not always a bad thing. Graduation, for example, is perfectly bittersweet. While it is tough to think about future weeks without these familiar faces and meaningful conversations, I know that none of us have the capacity for not even one more over-caffeinated and under-edited paper, students or faculty alike. So what is next for us? I'm not trying to say that graduation is apocalyptic, but I'm not saying it's not. Ahead of us is a complete and utter change in our day-to-day lives. In that class I mentioned earlier, Reverend Cody Saunders of Old Cambridge Baptist Church offered to us, for times of liminal space and transition, the reminders of grief, gratitude, and wonder. Grief. Before we go into what is next, we take a moment to honor what was. I know many of us have lost loved ones, parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, siblings, children, and friends. In the last few years, we have lost jobs, opportunities, and travel plans. It's been a hard couple of years, hasn't it? We have postponed weddings and baptisms and missed birthday parties and family reunions. And so as we move into tomorrow, I pray that you have found the rituals and the people who allow you to honor that grief, to allow you to honor who and what has been. I pray that you have taken good care. Gratitude, here we go. It goes without saying that we could not have done this degree, this year, this morning, without each other. So on behalf of all graduates here, let me thank the staff and faculty at Loyola who have led and taught and loved us into this moment. Thank you for your dedication to our success. And on that note, for your graciousness with assignment deadlines and snack breaks. Thank you for being human with us, complicated and trying. Thank you for your sense of humor and your steadfast commitment to right relationship. Thank you for guiding us into what is. To our friends and family and partners, thank you for being along for the ride. I know so many of you deserve more than a simple thank you. But for every project you've proofread, an idea you have workshopped, panicked phone call you answered, meal you shared, and drink you bought us, you're an answered prayer. And to the graduates, thank you for dedicating yourself to excellence, for opening yourself to wonder and new ideas. Thank you for believing in your own formation, for taking the time to support one another. And finally, wonder. We could have never imagined the world as it is today, and we surely do not know what the world will be tomorrow. So may we lead with wonder. Rather than attempting to offer half-hearted answers, may we be the more beautiful question askers. What does it mean to know God? To be church? To be alive right now? What if love wins? What if it's better than we dreamed of? And what if we've been readied for a time such as this? Thank you.
Thank you to you both. It is now with my great honor to introduce our commencement keynote speaker. Dr. Bettina Love is the Georgia Athletic Association Professor in Education at the University of Georgia. Dr. Love's writing, research, teaching, and educational advocacy meet at the intersection of education reform, anti-racism, carceral studies, abolition, and Black joy. An award-winning author, her work has appeared in many academic and media outlets, and she is the author of several books, including We Want to Do More Than Survive, Abolitionist Teaching and the Pursuit of Educational Freedom, and the creator of the Hip Hop Civics Curriculum. Please help me welcome Dr. Love to the podium.
Y'all look good. You're welcome. I see y'all ready. Good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations, class of 2022. I am honored to be here. Thank you, President Rooney, Provost Callahan, and to all the friends and family that are here today. Before I begin my address, I would like to take a second to reflect on the moment that we are in right now. Each of us, each of you, have committed several years of your life to complete this college degree. And we are here today because you have fulfilled those requirements, I hope. You sit before this beautiful family, before your own community now today as graduates. And we celebrate you. Nonetheless, it is important to acknowledge that you did not get here alone, through adversity. We are here because of the strength and the steadfastness of your perseverance. Community held you together when COVID-19, a global pandemic, closed schools for months, isolated us from our friends and family, our loved ones, and changed our lives for the unseeable future. Perseverance, focus is what kept you in these uncertain times. And when you transition into virtual learning spaces, you were supported and loved through this pandemic. It is the strength of your community here that got you to this point, that you are a graduate today. Community ensured you did not endure this pandemic alone. Perseverance kept you going and kept you thriving. You made it. The conditions have been like no other. Like no other. You know, back in the day, the old folks would say, I walked this long to school, I went this to school. You will say, well, I went through a global pandemic. So you got one to up that? I don't think they do. So we are celebrating you today. Celebrating the community that got you here, that nourished you, that poured into you, that loved you. It has been difficult. There were times that I wanted to give up, but my community kept me. I'm so excited to be here in front of you all. You are shining examples of how we uplift each other. how we love each other, how we support each other. Today is a day of celebration of love and commitment that even facing a global pandemic, we were not going to let each other down. So congratulations to the parents, the siblings, the grandparents, the aunties, the uncles, the partners who listened to your fears, listened to you complain, but always stood by your greatness. Today is what we call a community win. And I'm honored to stand here before you. I grew up in Rochester, New York, in a loving, thriving community. I would like to say, a rambunctious little girl. That's probably not the name my parents would call it. I had a vivid imagination and I had big dreams. But I was the daughter of two parents who did not attend college, so I couldn't imagine that I would stand here before you as your commencement speaker. However, I did have one dream as a child that I vividly remember, and that was to be a stockbroker. I'm not sure, but I thought the idea of yelling at people about money sounded great. I was too young to see Wolf on Wall Street, but something about a bell and money and the creation of it in the sky, I just loved the idea of a stockbroker. I would hold my own little stockbroker meetings. I would have little cookies and things laid out for my parents and charts. I don't know what those charts said or did, but I was trading. My parents never told me that I couldn't be a stockbroker, and they never told me I couldn't. They supported me, this big imagination. And they were with me every step of the way to bring my dreams into fruition. My parents loved me fiercely. They laughed at my jokes. And my parents could dance. We had the house that was the house party house. Everybody came to our house. We had albums, we had music. I joked that everything was brown: the rice, the liquor, the chicken. And they encouraged their daughter, who could not even catch the electric slide, to keep going. I just learned that, sadly, about 6 years ago. Not one of my best moments. But my parents encouraged me, my uniqueness. And what I remember most is my mother believed that authenticity was your superpower. She demanded that her 3 children be themselves. We were taught to hold our heads up high, never to quiver, and always be confident, to be free. So unsurprisingly, when I told my mother that I was gay, she embraced me and said, "I've been waiting on you. Been waiting on you to figure it out. I'm actually kind of tired of waiting." I was 19. My mother was unspoken. She was a free Black woman who was fierceness and had a drive for life. She was infamous for her one-liners. Don't rob Peter to pay Paul. Loose lips sink ships. And a hard head make a strong behind. But there was one piece of advice that my mother gave me that I want to pass on to you as you get your degrees and you go off to do amazing things. Because even with all my degrees and all my awards, my mother has always told me one thing: don't be an educated fool. My mother shared those words. My mother shared those words with me when I informed her that I was going to go back to college, leave the classroom, and get a PhD. She listened to me, ramble on about the reasons why I should get a PhD and what schools I was going to apply to. She didn't interrupt. She simply listened, and when I was done with my pitch for why I should get a PhD, she said, "Don't be an educated fool, Tina." I said, I know. And that was it. She never asked me about school again. It was those words that I knew exactly what she meant. So let me break it down to you if you're not quite sure what my mother's sage advice. Because she didn't have to explain it to me. But I knew those 5 words were a reminder that no matter how many degrees I obtain, how many papers I write, how many dissertations I defend, I'd be an educated fool if I didn't use my knowledge to make an impact on my community, to speak to everyday people and to make it plain, to make the words of injustice plain, to speak boldly and openly about the truth. Don't be an educated fool. As a woman who was deeply connected to her community, my mother believed and knew my degrees would be impressive only if I understood that access to knowledge should inspire me to give more of myself. That enhanced knowledge required I move from humanity and humility, and that knowledge I should share was sacred. And I should never be seduced into thinking that I was better than anybody because I got a piece of paper. Don't be an educated fool. My mother was reminding me that my degree came with responsibility to my community, to my family, to my ancestors, and to myself. With more education, I was responsible for carrying on the knowledge back to my community and building with those who were denied access to higher education because they look like me. I share my story with you, recognizing that we have different backgrounds, we have different stories and different lived experiences. But no matter our differences, I say to you the words of my mother, don't be an educated fool. Be responsible. Be responsible for sharing your knowledge and making classrooms more loving and more kind. Be responsible for teaching with a critical lens to this world. Be responsible by knowing that in these last few years you have built lifelong relationships and experiences that will impact you and how you see the world moving forward. Be responsible for engaging in a critical reflection of yourself. Change happens when people focus inward and are vulnerable to critique. It's easy to critique systems and structures that fail us, but people create structures. And structures will be moving to be more kind and more loving and more generous when we are. Be responsible for your values. Our values are where real change happens. When society values love and generosity and grace and forgiveness and accountability and rest, freedom, belonging, redemption, and has a people-centered approach to economy and public safety and banking and healthcare and jobs, the possibilities of justice are endless. We all thrive. We change our values, we reconstruct society. The great Dr. King said this. He says, for years I've labored with the idea of reforming the existing institutions of society through a little change here and a little change there. Oh, but now I feel quite differently. You've got to have a reconstruction of a whole society, a revolution of values. Dr. King's words inspire me every day. To know that change is possible when we have a reconstruction of our values. So to be responsible means to want to heal, knowing that healing thrives in our vulnerability, our honesty, and when we are accountable to ourselves and to our communities. Know that healing is hard because we live in a world that rewards perfectionism, urgency, defensiveness, binaries, individualism. Be responsible for accountability. The work is hard, and you will make mistakes along the way. But an African proverb says this: the hands that make mistakes belong to those who work. You will fumble, but it is part of the process. But holding yourself accountable is also part of the process. Accountability does not mean punishment or shame or guilt. It's atoning for harm and moving in grace to your best self. It's letting go of perfectionism and embracing life and all its imperfections. be transformative. This degree comes with responsibility to transform. Education, this world, oh, it needs us to transform and be transformed. Our nation, our democracy needs us to be transformed through new vision. One of my favorite writers, Robin D.G. Kelley, says it best. He says, without new visions, we don't know what to build, only what to knock down. We not only end up riddleless, confused, and cynical, but we forget that making a revolution is not a series of clever maneuvers and tactics, but the process that can and must transform us. The degree, the knowledge should transform you. You can read Uncle Jimmy, James Baldwin. You can read Toni Morrison. You can read Bell Hooks. You can read Alice Walker. You can listen to Dr. King and Ella Baker and Barbara Ramsey and Angela Davis. You can play some Donny Hathaway, some Nina Simone, some J. Cole, some Lauryn Hill, some Kendrick, some Andre 3000, No Name, The Coloring Book. But if the works and the words of these people you read and you listen to and you cite for papers and you admire, if it doesn't move you, if it doesn't change you, if it doesn't transform you, then you are an educated fool. You can't read Bell Hooks and not be transformed. You can't read James Baldwin and not feel something. You have had the opportunity to study, to learn. And this is more than just a piece of paper. It is a transformation that you are now responsible to yourself and your community, that this work will transform you. With everything going on in the world, it may seem as this responsibility is too much to bear. But be encouraged. Look around you right now. This crowd should encourage you. What we have been through should encourage you. You ain't encouraged now, I don't know what's going to encourage you. The fact that we are here celebrating you should be the reason why you should be encouraged. You made it with love and with gratitude and with grace. You are here with odds that we never saw before. I'm encouraged right now by you all. I'm encouraged by your families. I'm encouraged by that baby crying. Because that means life is here. And we are sharing energy, and what a blessing. You are surrounded by staff and students and loved ones that want nothing but the best for you. This university wants nothing but the best for you. So be encouraged by our human capacity to love. I'm encouraged to keep fighting. I'm encouraged to keep going, and I'm encouraged to keep loving. There are millions of kids out there that need us to be encouraged. They are brilliant, they are funny, and they will transform you. The purpose of learning is to transform not only yourself, but everybody you come in contact with. We are the ones we have been waiting for. This day, I hope you never forget. And I am honored that I got a chance to share it with you. No matter what's next for you, I hope you move in grace, love, compassion, and the notion that you got important work to do. So congratulations to the class of 2022. And my mother, Patty, would be so proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Love. In 2020, Sister Norma Pimentel was recommended to receive an honorary degree. Due to the pandemic, the degree conferral did not take place, and we are pleased to confer the degree today. The honorary degree will now be presented. On behalf of the Graduate School and the Institute of Pastoral Studies, Dean Jones will introduce Sister Norma Pimentel and read the citation. President Joanne Rooney will confer the degree.
Sister Norma, this has been a long time coming. Set to speak in 2020, you responded to the move online with patience and grace, recording video messages not only for the IPS ceremony, but for the entire university commencement opening ceremony video, something like that. It's an honor and pleasure finally to welcome you here and to introduce you to the class of 2022. You actually crossed this stage once before, in 1995, to receive the MA in Pastoral Counseling from the Institute of Pastoral Studies. Welcome back. Norma Pimentel is a sister with the Missionaries of Jesus who devotes her life to serving people at the margins of society, especially those individuals and families who encounter the harsh reality of the U.S.-Mexico border as migrants, refugees, undocumented workers. As noted in the commencement program, she was born and raised on the border and has offered her life in service there. As an outspoken supporter of migrants and an advocate for immigration policy reform, she has the attention of Pope Francis, who singled her out to honor her and lift her up as a powerful example of Christ in the midst of the poor. Sister Norma embodies exceptionally the ministry of pastoral care that we seek to nurture and encourage in our students at the Institute of Pastoral Studies. And she does so under the scrutiny of the public eye, without wavering from the faith foundation that has always grounded and motivated her. Her life of service reveals a deep commitment to several core Jesuit principles. She serves people as whole persons, attending to all of their needs, refusing to reduce migrant refugees, for example, to a policy metric or an economic statistic. She is attentive, she is discerning, she is fearless. Her encounters and her accompaniment of people transform her, and she brings the truth discerned in those relationships to the public at large, embracing the media platforms and personalities to which she has access to lift up and center the experiences of people often assigned to the periphery or simply ignored. In this work, she does not insert herself, but brings forward those around her as the real focus. Witness, for example, the video of her community's encounter with Pope Francis. Sister Norma is seated in the community in the middle of the crowd, a servant leader who binds her own fate to the fate of those whom she serves. This is a deep and uncommon form of solidarity. She is already a doctor of humanity in every sense, and it is time for her alma mater to honor her and her work with a credential that highlights this fact. Sister Norma Pimentel, President Rooney, I invite you to the podium. President Rooney, in recognition of her lifelong commitment to social justice, her service on behalf of the poor and marginalized, her devotion to her religious community, through her distinguished career, I recommend the degree Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, be conferred upon her.
Upon the recommendation of the deans of the Graduate School and the Institute of Pastoral Studies and their faculty, and by the authority granted to Loyola University Chicago by the state of Illinois, and delegated to me by the Board of Trustees of this university, I confer upon you the degree for which you have been recommended, Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
Thank you. I'm truly humbled and blessed to be an instrument of God to help humanity, to be present to the many people who are vulnerable and fragile in our world. On their behalf, for the many tens of thousands that I have been privileged to accompany in their time of suffering, for them, thank you.
The candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy will now be presented. Dean Barman will make the recommendations to President Rooney, who will in turn confer the degrees. I would like to invite President Rooney and Dean Barman to the podium.
Will the candidates for the Doctor of Philosophy from the Graduate School please rise? President Rooney, I have the pleasure of presenting to you the candidates for the degree Doctor of Philosophy. The candidates have fulfilled all the requirements for their degrees, and I recommend that the degrees be conferred upon them.
Candidates, upon the recommendation of the Dean of the Graduate School and its faculty, and by the authority granted to Loyola University Chicago by the state of Illinois, and delegated to me by the Board of Trustees of this university, I confer upon you the Doctor of Philosophy degrees for which you have been recommended. As a sign of your new academic status, you will be hooded by your dissertation director. Congratulations, graduates.
The PhD graduates will now come forward to be recognized by name as directed by marshals. Candidates who have not yet been taken out of their rows, please be seated. In recognition of the unique relationship between dissertation directors, advisors, and their students, the dissertation directors and advisors will hood the graduates. Dr. Leanne Cribbs, Associate Dean of the Graduate School, will read the names of the graduates. One of our long-standing traditions is to have each of our graduates shake hands with the president and dean as they walk across the stage accepting their diploma. This year, out of an abundance of caution and respect for our graduates and their guests, at each of our ceremonies throughout the week, we ask that you forego the customary handshake and instead exchange verbal greetings. Thank you for your understanding. All, please remain in your seats and hold your applause until the entire degree group has been recognized. Guests are not permitted to approach the stage to take photographs. Thank you for your cooperation.
Receiving the degree, Doctor of Philosophy, Anita Kurti Ghosh. Dr. Ghosh studied molecular mechanisms underlying alcohol-induced dry eye disease. David Abraham Castro. Dr. Castro studied the relationships between K-12 schooling and community activist formation. Dr. Sarah Stockdale Jefferson. Dr. Jefferson studied the effect of neighborhood factors on school choice in Chicago. Dr. Arseny Boutrin. Dr. Boutrin studied the development of drugs against liver cancer. Dr. Elizabeth Ann Jamka. Dr. Jamka studied carbon monoxide oxidation on rhodium surfaces via spectroscopy. Dr. Miguel Bailacora. Dr. Mashiel Al-Ghamdi. Dr. Al-Ghamdi studied the structural and functional regulation of the bacterial enzyme ADP glucose pyrophosphorylase. Dr. Jaina Bayani. Dr. Bayani studied the structure-function relationships of ADP glucose pyrophosphorylases. Dr. Tahani Shifna Habib Mohammed. Dr. Mohammed studied methods to make potential antimicrobials and studied their biological activities. Dr. Philip Charles Nalick. Dr. Nalick studied a community of K-12 teachers implementing green chemistry. Dr. Adriana Marie Lugosin. Dr. Lugosin studied iron complexes that can be used to activate dinitrogen and produce ammonia. Dr. Plamina Daskalova. Dr. Daskalova studied the influence of social status and work motivation on the experience of meaningful work. Dr. Lincoln Hill. Dr. Hill studied Black women college students and the imposter phenomenon. Dr. Daewon Kim. Dr. Kim studied the relationship between country satisfaction and life satisfaction by developing the country satisfaction scale. Dr. Mary Catherine Harmon. Dr. Harmon studied secularism and 19th century religious poetry. Dr. Shelby Sleevey. Dr. Sleevey studied the relationship between modernist literacy practices and contemporary fiction. Dr. Paige Gardner. Dr. Gardner studied Black feminism in women of color student affairs administrators. Okay. Dr. Cobretti Dominique Williams. Dr. Williams studied how women of color student activists develop leadership and agency within predominantly white institutions. Dr. Emily Medina Rodriguez. Dr. Medina Rodriguez studied the experiences of Latina graduate student mothers. Dr. Julia Ferreira Mendez. Dr. Mendez studied how immigrant communities engage in resistance through stories of experiences of authentic joy. Dr. Ashley M. Brown. Dr. Brown studied feminist perspectives for developing educational initiatives to transform masculinity. Dr. Destiny M. Quintero. Dr. Quintero studied the meaning of student success for students of Mexican origin. Dr. Liliana Franco Carrera. Dr. Franco Carrera studied the experiences of first-generation Latinx students in their college choice process. Dr. Courtney Reginald Hutchings. Dr. Hutchings studied Black, gay, bisexual, and queer men's experiences in mentorship programs at higher education institutions. Dr. Amy Michelle Wilkinson. Dr. Wilkinson studied academic capitalism and its influence on collegiate dance programs. Dr. Norma Lopez. Dr. Lopez studied Latinx students' resilience in relation to the development of their critical consciousness. Dr. Nathan Elstrand. Dr. Elstrand studied conservative Mexicans in the United States during World War II. Dr. Chelsea Denault. Dr. Denault studied the financial, environmental, and social impacts of the world's largest trash incinerator in Detroit. Dr. Kelly L. Schmidt. Dr. Schmidt studied the lives of people enslaved to Jesuits in the U.S. Dr. Jeanette Eileen Clay. Dr. Clay studied the global 1980s women's peace camping movement. Dr. Ella F. Wagner. Dr. Wagner studied the race and immigration politics of the women's temperance movement. Dr. Ruby Glade Oram. Dr. Oram studied women and vocational school reform in progressive-era Chicago. Dr. Anya Nikolai Yogerst. Dr. Nikolai Yogerst studied cord blood-derived T cells and the effect of vitamin D on immune suppression. Dr. Kevin Burbage. Dr. Burbage studied how neurons' impaired ability to degrade protein during Parkinson's disease affects its progression. Dr. Colleen Marie Cordish. Dr. Cordish studied the effect of social support for women with type 2 diabetes and depression. Dr. Laura De La Pena. Dr. De La Pena studied pediatric providers' role in early detection of postpartum depression. Dr. Sharon Grizio Williams. Dr. Grizio Wilson studied the capture of perioperative handoff communication in the electronic health record. Dr. Susan M. Horner. Dr. Horner studied relationships between parent presence and stress in infants in neonatal ICUs. Dr. Amy Catherine Kiefer. Dr. Kiefer studied the relationships between burnout, collective efficacy, and the social network of direct patient care workers in an ICU. Dr. Cheryl Ann Angel. Dr. Angel studied maternal fetal attachment and its relationship to quality of life in pregnant women with diabetes. Dr. Randolph J. Carlson, Jr. Dr. Carlson, Jr. studied whether and how disagreements should alter our political beliefs. Dr. Philippa Emily Friedman. Dr. Friedman studied political epistemology, democratic theory, and Marxism. Dr. Catherine Brejacek. Dr. Brejacek studied the effects of Eurocentrism and anti-Black racism on Hannah Arendt's political philosophy. Dr. Claire Abbott Lockard. Dr. Lockard studied the use of interpretive charity in academic philosophy. Dr. Jorge Humberto Guzman Gonzalez. Dr. Guzman Gonzalez studied the impact of conditional cash transfer programs on inequality in Latin America. Dr. Laura Masters Nicholson. Dr. Nicholson studied the impact of sleep routines on cognitive outcomes in youth. Dr. Carol Grace Hundert. Dr. Hundert studied how to improve engagement with technology-based mental health interventions. Dr. Ian James Carrillis. Dr. Carrillis studied the neural correlates of emotion reactivity and regulation in depression. Dr. Diana M. Ohanian. Dr. Ohanian studied pain and neuropsychological functioning in youth with spina bifida. Dr. Ogechi Chidama Onyeka. Dr. Onyeka studied the role of the school-to-prison pipeline on youth psychosocial functioning. Dr. Danielle Jordan Nisi. Dr. Nisi studied the role of executive functioning in desistance from antisocial behavior. Dr. Diana Acosta. Dr. Acosta studied how tinkering and storytelling supports Latin children's engineering and spatial learning. Dr. Lauren Christine Pagano. Dr. Pagano studied how tinkering, reflection, and digital storytelling support children's STEM learning. Dr. Catherine F. Guarino. Dr. Guarino studied the effect of gesture on children's visual attention and learning. Dr. Kara Elizabeth Ray. Dr. Ray studied moral intuitions and COVID-19 vaccination intentions. Dr. Jeremy Ryan Winkett. Dr. Wingate studied how open-minded group cognition influences group problem solving. Dr. Nicholas James Anthony Branson. Dr. Branson studied the effects of communication modes on comprehension and use of student outcome evidence in higher education. Dr. Joseph A. Reno. Dr. Reno studied how ideas, people, and dirt gave one archaeological site credibility. Dr. Ashley Baber. Dr. Baber studied the relationship between forms of on-demand labor and the state. Dr. Quinton A. Williams. Dr. Williams studied the role that housing status plays as an independent force in shaping rearrest patterns in 2 U.S. countries. Dr. Suli Chaco. Dr. Suli studied everyday experiences of low-wage working immigrant women working in the informal sectors. Dr. Mary Lynch Dungy Akenji. Dr. Dungy Akenji studied gender and community organizing through a critical theory lens. Dr. Amzie Moore. Dr. Moore studied a cross-age peer mentoring program and its effect on increasing components of resilience among low-income urban youth. Dr. Melissa May Iverson. Dr. Iverson studied the influence of funder-mandated performance metrics on nonprofit service delivery. Dr. Catherine Williams. Dr. Williams studied patients' experience of psychoanalytic treatment. Dr. Lauren Elizabeth Carr. Dr. Carr studied pediatric mental health hospitalizations and the return to school. Dr. Kelsey Nicole Reed. Dr. Reed studied how to disrupt racial disparities in K-12 school suspension practices. Dr. Carly Tyndall Biggins. Dr. Tyndall Biggins studied the process of youth empowerment utilizing a participatory action research design. Dr. Jonathan Jess Hatter. Dr. Hatter studied enslaved characters and enslavement languages in the Gospel of Matthew. Dr. Martin Tomczak. Dr. Tomczak studied the intersection of the Catholic worker movement with radical political theology. Dr. Jacob W. Torbeck. Dr. Torbeck studied the theological role of attention in Christian mystical thought. Dr. Amanda Marie Kimbrell. Dr. Kimbrell studied the image of water in the Gospel of John. Dr. Michael Osundo Okoro. Dr. Okoro studied how to achieve an integral health care ethic using conventional medicine and traditional healing knowledge. Dr. Yael Park. Dr. Park studied an eco-theology for Korean American Presbyterian churches. Dr. Augustin Vondu. Dr. Vondu studied environmental reforestation and social justice in Cameroon. Dr. Gabriel J. Katanis. Dr. Katanis studied how Filipino American communities contribute to Christian theology and ethics. Dr. Paul Olatabosin Adaja. Dr. Adaja studied how the Lord's Supper in Corinth represented the meal tradition of the times. Dr. Erica Lynn Sakuchi. Dr. Sakuchi studied theological ethics, focusing on the ethics of childhood and family. Congratulations, graduates.
The candidates for the Doctor of Bioethics degree will now be presented. Dean Barman will make the recommendations to President Rooney, who will in turn confer the degrees.
Will the candidates for the Doctor of Bioethics degree from the graduate school please rise? President Rooney, I have the pleasure of presenting to you the candidates for the degree Doctor of Bioethics. The candidates have fulfilled all the requirements for their degrees, and I recommend that the degrees be conferred upon them.
Candidates, upon the recommendation of the Dean of the Graduate School and its faculty, and by the authority granted to Loyola University Chicago by the state of Illinois, and delegated to me by the Board of Trustees of this university, I confer upon you the Doctor of Bioethics degrees for which you have been recommended. As a sign of your new academic status, you will be hooded by your advisor. Congratulations, graduates.
The Doctor of Bioethics graduates will now come forward to be recognized by name as directed by marshals. Graduates will be hooded by Dr. Kayan Parsi, Director of the Graduate Program in Bioethics. Dr. Susan Grossman, Associate Dean of the Graduate School, will read the names of the graduates.
Receiving the degree Doctor of Bioethics, Ricky Gaber Caffrey. Angela D. Carico. Patricia A. Klein. Melissa Bynack. Roberta Ann Downing. Donald Charles Hopfer. Lauren Elizabeth Marino. David Edward Nantes. John C. Stiles. Megan Cassie Wanzo. Congratulations, graduates.
The candidates for master's degrees will now be presented. Dean Barman will make the recommendations to President Rooney, who in turn will confer the degrees.
Will the candidates for master's degree from the graduate school please rise? President Rooney, I have the pleasure of presenting to you the candidates for the degrees Master of Arts, Master of Public Policy, and Master of Science. The candidates have fulfilled all the requirements for their degrees, and I recommend that the degrees be conferred upon them.
Candidates, upon the recommendation of the Dean of the Graduate School and its faculty, and by the authority granted to Loyola University Chicago by the state of Illinois, and delegated to me by the Board of Trustees of this university, I confer upon you the master's degrees for which you have been recommended. As a sign of your new academic status, please don your hoods. And congratulations, graduates.
The master's graduates will now come forward. Dr. Leanne Cribbs and Dr. Susan Grossman will read the names of the graduates. Candidates who have not yet been taken out of their rows may be seated again. All please remain in your seats and hold your applause until the entire degree group has been recognized. Thank you.
Receiving the degree Master of Arts. Dara Abasada. Mahmoud Al-Fadul. Benjamin Asbury. Caitlin Grace Barrett. Megan Baird. Victor Herptovich. Kevin Burke Casey. Crystal Valerie Cervantes. Thomas Richard Koval. Mary Cole Dalton. Lindsay Dilks. Fabio Duque. Maxwell Dean DeZabis. Matthew James Angubretson. Gabriel Escudero. James Keenan Fix. Erica Feda. Megan Grace Flannery. Lena Flores Wolf. Matthew Gallagher. Bushra Ganiwala. Vivek Chita Gandhi. Remy Giroux. Irina Kosturka. Amin Luthra. Sri Matukumali. Mia Josephine Sirinesoi. Alexander Charles Gilbert. Stephanie Elaine Gray. Kalia Griffin. Holly Kathleen Herman. Mary Teresa Henderson. Holland Herndon. Mark Anthony Hill. Zachary Holloway. Taryn Holt. Kenley Howard. Laura Horitzkova. Edison Herr. Trisha Ebay. Javiria Irfan. Emily Page Jones. Yaharidith Moraz Quintero. John Kefribe. Victoria Kaplan. Sri Vishnu Kastiri. Miles Kelly. Noah Christopher Kelly. Christine Ann Kerrigan. Aliyah Khan. Cordine Coates. Alexandra Jean Cavett. Madeline Jane Lawler. Trimore Magmana. Brian Joseph Maloney. Jacob McClune. Arthurine Rose Maduros. Oscar Danilo Mendoza Rugama. Meghana K. Mohan. Francisco Morales Motas. Bianca Moreno. Kristen Marie Morrison. Nina Musgrove. Mia Celeste Navarritas Etas. Grant Thomas Neal. Melissa Newman. Chi Nyen Vo Win. Cindy Wynn. Jana Lee O'Leary. Sarah Elizabeth Parsons. Kajul Patel. Mihir Patel. Alyssa Stella Patty. Michael Edward Peterson. Jordan Sierra Perry. Dragana Petrick. Lillian Wynn Platten. Elizabeth Presido Salinas. Matthew Ralph Prabilski. Kendall Redwood. Devon Richardson. Eric James Robinson. James Rohde. Maris Rosenfeld. Julia Antoinetta Rotondi. Robert Owen Ruggiero. Sarija Sabella. Sanaf John Sajan. Thank you. Isabella Jane Spiniza. Efrata Sasahula. Sanchita Sen. Keely Elise Schudel. Thomas Lindsay Smith. Michael Spain. Abigail Elizabeth Brandel. Nancy Ann Sullivan. Julie Suzmeke. Lauren Tan. Michael Fayer. Ramya Tamala. Elena Valentine. Peyton Joe Van Kalker. Kimberly Venser. Daniel Ryan Warwick. Catherine Ann Wasalik. Grace Watkins. Jessica Carol Nicole Wilbur. Adam Lennox Eunice. Isabel Claire Borkowski. Jeanette Aquamua. Congratulations, graduates.
Receiving the degree Master of Public Policy, Isabella Anel Gutierrez. Peyton James Neufelder. Receiving the degree Master of Science, Olamide Gafar Alakija. Emmanuel Somtachaku Amobi. Adesola Agodeji. Naomi Ui Archibong. Madeline Ariel Armour. Zulio Aroli. Genevieve Na Lartelli Badu. Summer Marie Baptiste. Michelle Anna Belmont. Jonathan Andrew Benson. Nathan Bolt. Rebecca Lynn Boyle. Wasif Butt. Michael Bukata. Stephen C. Carpenter. Patrick Chan. John James Colgan. Jalen Bryant Cruz. Ayat Diab. Lawanda Clark. Kay Dine. Tarana Darways. Thomas Bernard DePuma, Jr. Louis Jane Bautista Dulana. Marius Ebert. Adriana Enne. Henry David Espinoza Sarmiento. Yandi Faranango. Madison Flood. Armin Gabella. Dulce Sarai Garcia. Aiden Gartner. Ariana Gremsky. David Gubala. Gabriel Antonio Guevara Ailman. Eleanor Hahn. Samuel Charles Hardiman. Amanda Hensman. Andrew Patrick Yeager. Thomas Jamrosic. Azra Habibullah. Rania Abraham. Avery Deng Jan. Amala Kalezik. Aryan Narashima Kamath. Nicholas Anthony Kuzman. Christine K. Lee. Junggun Lee. Blake McCreevy. Rita Lauren Mormondo. Gianni Nguyen. Sean David Ogle. Lahari Tomkar Nataraj. Viviani Naftali Pouch. Ridwan Aluko Saludin. Mohammed Mahmoud Kamil Salah. Liliana Perez. Marcos Saul Santiago Figueroa. Thomas Patrick Scott. Olivia Eileen Seal. Kenzo Shearlink. Hannah Schaubecka. Monica Sikluki. Adam Michael Smith. Sidra Sohail. Alexandra Tan. Robert Telesco. Anthony S. Truckenbrod. Sophie M. Van Hatten. Brian L. Waddell. Anne-Marie Wagner. Kendall Jill Wallace. Jackson Wayne West. Jerry Wu. Hannah Elizabeth Young. Michael Zarnowski. Emily Zhang. Martin Zugschwert. Congratulations, graduates.
Congratulations to all the graduate school graduates. The candidates for master's degrees and certificates from the Institute of Pastoral Studies will now be presented. Dean Peter Jones will make the recommendations to President Rooney, who in turn will confer the degrees and certificates.
Will the candidates from the Institute of Pastoral Studies please rise? President Rooney, I have the pleasure of presenting to you the candidates for the degrees Master of Divinity, Master of Arts, and the certificates from the Institute of Pastoral Studies. The candidates have fulfilled all the requirements for their degrees and certificates, and I recommend that these be conferred upon them.
Candidates, upon the recommendation of the Dean of the Institute of Pastoral Studies and its faculty, and by the authority granted to Loyola University Chicago by the state of Illinois, and delegated to me by the Board of Trustees of this university, I confer upon you the master's degrees and certificates for which you have been recommended. As a sign of your new academic status, please don your hoods. And congratulations, graduates.
The master's and certificate graduates will now come forward. Dr. Deborah Watson, clinical instructor in the Institute of Pastoral Studies, will read the names of the graduates from the Institute of Pastoral Studies. Please remain in your seats and hold your applause until the entire group has been recognized.
Masters of Divinity, Kristen Lenore Anthony, and also receiving Master of Arts in Pastoral Counseling. Jose Trinidad Coronel Vilches Jr., also receiving a certificate in church management. Antoinette Jasonda Daniels. Claire Michelle Des Hotels. Colleen Ann Granger Hagan. Veronica Alejandra Sestoque Luna is also receiving a Master's of Arts in Pastoral Counseling. An Quoc Tran, also receiving a Master of Arts in Pastoral Counseling. Don Einar Serbanya Kambe. Masters of Arts, Lawrence R. Colbaccini. Jennifer Lee Dressler. Susan Diane Gibbons. Masters of Divinity, Kasha Louise Sainor, also receiving a Master's of Arts in Social Justice. Masters of Pastoral Studies, Tracy Lynn Keeter. Masters of Social Justice, Kalana Kale Scott, also receiving a certificate in social enterprise. Masters of Christian Spirituality, Jin Lee. Catherine Y. Locke. Kelly M. McCarthy. Anthony Mullame. Germanus Oyamamakataro O. Moon Nagbe. Unity Alavencia Osterkamp. Tara Parker. Norma Guadalupe Pocasangre Umanzor. Catherine Mary Smith. Kelly Nicole Wee Soon Tan. Chad Robert Torgerson. Gerald Joseph Witkowski, Jr. Deborah Janine Kitching, Certificate in Pastoral Counseling. Kathleen Quinlan. Congratulations.
Following the closing blessing, please join the graduates for a reception on the West Quad. We ask that you remain in your seats until all the graduates have exited the auditorium. It is now my privilege to invite Dr. Joanne Rooney, President of Loyola University Chicago, to the podium, who will offer a few remarks and a final blessing.
Members of the class of 2022, it has been a very long road, best described as riding a roller coaster through a dark tunnel, unable to see the steep drops and hairpin turns, not certain when you would emerge into the light. Yet, you did it. You have graduated. Will everyone join me in giving these graduates one more round of applause? Each of us, at various times throughout our lives, both sit upon the shoulders and follow in the footsteps of others who came before us. Just over 500 years ago, St. Ignatius of Loyola and a small group of colleagues made a pledge to each other. They vowed to study, work, and pray together. They pledged to propagate a faith that melded spirituality with deep inquiry, fostering that dynamic tension between formation of the mind academically with formation of deep spirituality and trust in God. When they founded the Society of Jesus and its educational mission and method, they did so in a spirit of intellectual and cultural openness that fundamentally shifted Christianity and Western culture. The Jesuits did not promote a blind, unquestioning faith. Their revolutionary approach blended spiritual and educational methods that opened hearts and minds to art and to science, to reason and to rhetoric. Through deep inquiry, observation, debate, and discourse, they looked for God in all things. And they did all of this in service to others. Ignatius and the Jesuits created a system of education that integrated study and research, rigor and compassion, contemplation with conversation, with active engagement among peoples, societies, and cultures around them. In short, the Jesuits moved beyond the secure walls of the monastery to fearlessly engage with the world around them, to advance change, and to lift up those who suffer. Today, that same mission is entrusted to you and embodied in you. Graduates, you are challenged to act, going to the margins of our society in service to the poor and underserved, and expanding the frontiers of knowledge to support that very same service. You have embraced your Jesuit education, not simply as a way to distinguish yourself in a career, but as a way to learn, to lead, and to serve in your place and time in the world. Now, on its face, this idea of service may seem straightforward and uncomplicated. It is not. I was reminded of this recently in a Western civilization class that I attended, taught by our own Professor Buchholz. Civilization, civilized society, is at its core about community, about greetings and sympathy. As members of a community, we must be willing to reach deep within ourselves to engage with each other, not just via a video or a text, but face to face, human connection to human connection. It is about receiving each other and interacting on a personal level. The smile, the nod, the acknowledgement, the embrace. But along with greeting, we must also show sympathy, or a better description, true empathy. Committing ourselves to seeing each other, appreciating each other, understanding each other, and showing compassion and care. It is only then that we could be of real service, walking alongside and accompanying those in need. Recently, Pope Francis was much more direct, dare I say blunt, in his assessment, calling on each of us to put aside consumerism and self-centered desires to serve others. In a recent homily celebrating Mass for the World Day of the Poor, he stated, "Let us not waste our lives thinking only of ourselves, indifferent to others, or deluding ourselves into thinking peace and security. Instead, he said, we must look reality in the face and avoid the infection of indifference. The infection of indifference. As we emerge from the relative isolation of this pandemic, we are often struck and even consumed by all the sorrows and lessons we have endured over the past few years, even though we cannot undo the past. We also can become anxious and even overwhelmed when we focus on the future and all we need to do to address the urgent issues in our neighborhoods, communities, and across the world. But we cannot dictate the details of tomorrow. Learn from the past, yes. Contemplate the future, of course. However, equally important, what we must also do is be present in this moment. I urge you to regularly pause and engage with the present. Offer greetings and express empathy. Appreciate the beauty that surrounds us, the warmth of the sun, the uplifting sound of laughter, the vibrant colors of new spring growth, the melodies of joyous music, the smile of a child, the poignant stories of an elder. My sincere prayer for each of you is that your Jesuit education affords you protection against the infection of indifference. That you continue to explore, grow, and learn, moving toward a hope-filled future, serving where the need is the greatest. That you stay connected to the present, nourishing the good in your lives with love and optimism, sharing greetings and expressing sympathy. In these ways, you will be the difference and make the difference in all that you do. As I close, I would like to offer one final gesture of respect and gratitude to each of you. Graduates of the Institute of Pastoral Studies and the Graduate School at Loyola University Chicago, I tip my hat to you. Congratulations. Graduates, I will ask that you please remain seated just for a few more moments. Everyone else, please stand if you are able and extend your hand over our graduates for a final blessing. The blessing is located on the last page of the program and displayed on the screens. Please join with me. May God bless you and sustain you on this, your graduation day. May the Creator of this vast universe keep you safe as you go forth from this place that has nourished your mind and your soul. May the Almighty look down upon you and give you success in all your endeavors, courage in all your struggles and challenges, understanding in all that is new to you, wisdom to choose what is right and do what is good, perseverance in all you undertake, serenity and peace in the knowledge that you are not alone, that you are loved. May the Lord of all look kindly upon you this day and forever. Amen. And congratulations, graduates!